Let's start with the prayers. Om Sahana Bhavato Sahanau Bhunakto Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavaditamastu ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. We are studying Panchadasi, chapter 3, titled Pancha Kosha Viveka Prakaranam. We have finished 35 verses of this chapter, which consists of 43 verses. What we have seen is the essence of Taittiriya Upanishad in this chapter. Taittiriya Upanishad describes the reality as satyam, jnanam, anantam. Reality means which always exists. Normally, we think that this world consists of human beings like us. We exist for some time and then we go away. That's all we know about ourselves. And we normally do not care too much about the world. What Upanishads reveal to us is that my nature itself, which I think today as this body, is a mistake. This is what Upanishads are trying to teach us. The fact that I consider myself to be this gross body is an error. The whole process of spiritual study is to correct this error. In order to correct this error, the Upanishads point out a new fact which I don't know. There is something in this universe which is always there. That is the first thing revealed by the Upanishad. Satyam jnanam anantam brahma. Brahma asti is the first thing. Then the Upanishad says that you are that Brahman. This is the second portion. You are that eternal consciousness, eternal existence. In order to understand this second aspect is where most of our efforts are put in. And Pancha Kosha Viveka is one of the methods by which we realize that my nature is not the body or the mind, but my nature is consciousness. So all of us, when we are studying Panchadasi, the goal should be extremely clear. The goal is to identify myself with something which I don't know today, to learn about that aspect first, and then to put efforts to be that. So in this chapter, the 5 koshas were dealt up to verse number 12, 1 to 12. And Swami Vidyaranya says that the 5 koshas are not me. Then who am I? The definition of myself is satya, pure existence. That is what was described from 13 to 28. 13 to 28 talked about jnanam, which is consciousness, and 29 to 34 talked about satya. So Swami Vidyaranya took jnanam first. Jnana means I am eternally of the nature of consciousness. Consciousness is a noun, it is not a verb. It is a noun. Consciousness is my real nature itself. Like the fire is hot, water is cool, the sun shines. These are its nature. Similarly, what Upanishads tell me is my nature. That means this nature is what it never changes. Fire is always hot. I am always conscious. I am always existent principle. I always am. I always am. So in many of the Upanishads, they prescribe an upasana, which is called as ahamgraha upasana. I am that pure consciousness. When we repeat this again and again in our meditation, in our thought process, what happens is my abhimana, my identification with the body as myself gets reduced. Especially in Taittiriya Upanishad Bhashyam, Shankaracharya brings out this point very clearly. What he says in the Bhashyam of Taittiriya Upanishad is, he says, assert your nature again and again in your own mind. You need not tell this to anybody else, because this spiritual knowledge is for our own self. Nobody else will get the benefit of the spiritual study except myself. This is a personal study. And it is the growth of a person spiritually from identifying himself or herself with the body. From there, the growth starts. When we enter the spiritual science and do these type of exercises of learning Panchadasi, learning the Upanishads, what really happens is our mind changes. There is a transformation of the human mind. Most of you who are in the spiritual path will confirm this aspect. If you have been in this for the last 8 years, 10 years, 3 years, 2 years, you will find that your thought process is slowly getting transformed. And that is a tremendous success in human evolution. Because this leads to freedom, complete freedom from identifying oneself as the body, which is called as moksha. When we try to say this, that I am this conscious principle, I am the existent principle, I am always there. There is no non-existence of myself, as said in Bhagavad Gita, the 2nd chapter. Never there is non-existence, which is our anubhava. Each one of us feels that I always exist. The conditions of the body may be different, the condition of the mind may be different, but what continuously exists is my nature. With this, let's go into our study of 35th and 36th verses, where we embarked on ananta. So there are three aspects: satyam, jnanam, ananta. Jnanam has been taken from 13 to 28. We have studied that. 29 to 34 was pure existence, which is satyam. 35 and 36 deal with ananta. This anantam is slightly difficult to grasp compared to satyam and jnanam. Satyam is very easy. I always exist. Jnanam, I am conscious. I can think, I can talk, I can speak, I can run. These are all the expressions of consciousness. But anantam means that I always exist. Eternal principle. If you go back to the 35th verse, the 35th verse said, Brahman is not limited by space because it is all pervasive. This is how anantam is described in the Upanishads. Brahman means it is my own nature, my higher nature. It is not limited by space means this pure Chaitanyam or pure existence principle is all pervasive. There is no place where this is not there, where this existence is not there. See, in the world, we always say this exists, that exists, the trees exist, Himalayas exist, the waterfalls, Niagara waterfalls exist. Everything exists. Anything in the cosmos exists, the universe exists, the Milky Way exists, the planets exist. Everything exists. Objects are different, but existence remains all the time connected with all the objects. That is what is called as anantam, space-wise. Limitlessness with reference to space. Then the second aspect is anantam with reference to time. This verse says, being eternal, it is not limited by time. That means it is always there. Before creation of the universe, it was there. After the resolution of the universe, which is called as pralayam, this existence will continue. That is the second aspect of limitlessness, the infinite of Brahman. The third aspect is it is not limited, this pure reality is not limited by any object. Therefore, we say it is Sarva-atma. It is the Atma of everything which exists in the universe. It is your Atma, it is my Atma, it is the Atma of anybody. It is the Atma of all the inert objects. It is the Atma of the entire cosmos. That is why it is called as the self. It is not called as he or she or it, but it is called as the self. Atma means self. The very word denotes that it is all pervasive. So, 35th verse talked about when you say anantam, what does it mean? Anantam means, it means three things. It is not limited by time, space, and objects. The 36th verse is a continuation of this anantam principle. Here, let me just go back. Let me play out the verse for you.
देशकालवस्तूनां देशकालान्यवस्तूनां कल्पितत्वाच्च मायया न देशाधिकृतो अन्तोऽस्ति न देशाधिकृतोऽन्तोऽस्ति ब्रह्मानन्त्यं स्फुटं ततः ब्रह्मानन्त्यं स्फुटं ततः.
So in this verse, Swami Vidyaranya introduces the word Mayaya, Deshakala Vastunam Kalpita Tvacha Mayaya. This Maya topic is going to be discussed in very big detail from 37 to 43 till the end of the chapter. It's a very a detailed discussion which we will see, because Maya is something which is very abstract, very difficult to explain because of its nature. What does this verse say? It says space, time, and objects are illusions. See, this is how very boldly Vedanta says and describes all our experiences. So from 47 onwards, what we are going to see is, how do I reconcile with the fact that whatever I experience is not the real nature of the world? It is different. The world is completely an illusion. And who causes this illusion? It is the Shakti of Brahman. Maya is Shakti of Brahman. How does this infinitude comes about in Brahman? Brahman means what? It is always there. It is timeless. It is spaceless. It is objectless. It is always there, eternally there. So space-time objects, according to Vedanta, they are all illusions, and it is adhyasa caused by Maya. This Maya does not limit Brahman. Does not limit Brahman means it does not affect Brahman. Desha kalani anya vastuna kalpitaha cha Maya. So in this existence, there is a power which manifests the objects, which manifests the creation. Like what? Like water has the power to create a wave. So similarly, gold has a power to create a chain. This Brahman has the power to create the universe. The universe, for example, we say the wave does not have an independent reality. It depends on what? It depends on the ocean, or it depends on the content, which is water. Similarly, world is not independently existing. It depends on this consciousness principle, which is called as Brahman. See, this is the way for us to know our real nature. So a very important aspect of The entire discussions on the spirituality is Maya principle. We must be very, very clear. If we want to have moksha, we must have Maya in our pocket. At any time, we must be able to say, this is Maya. World is Maya. Waking is Maya. Dream is Maya. Sleep is Maya. What is the satyam? The satyam is the adhishthana. Like what? Like the water is the adhishthanam of a wave. Similarly, Brahman is the adhishthanam for the entire cosmos. In satyam jnanam anantam Brahma, the world is appearing. In water, waves are appearing. A wave can be a small wave, it can be a tsunami, but it is still water. So similarly, in pure consciousness, which is called as Brahman, this whole world appears and disappears. This aspect, what I am telling now, this is something which each one of us has to realize within herself or himself. You have to see, and the only way to realize is to say that I am that consciousness, pure consciousness. In my screen of pure existence consciousness, this world is appearing and manifesting, unmanifesting. Whole world, including my body, mind, complex, the whole universe. Like how, for example, when we see a dream, we wake up. When we wake up, what do we say? The whole dream was there in me only. And it just disappeared, that's all. So similarly, we have to say, in me, the pure Brahman or consciousness, which is called as a reality, this waking world is coming, is existing. It manifests, it goes to unmanifest condition. But what remains changelessly is this existence principle, consciousness principle. We cannot show a bubble without water. We cannot show the whole, any universe without me, the consciousness principle. It doesn't exist. According to Vedanta, world and consciousness, we need to demarcate first. And this is a very important point to understand, that the world doesn't have an independent existence. These are the facts which each one of us has to realize in order to know the truth about myself. Like wave, bubble, and froth does not exist without water. Similarly, without the power of Maya, Shakti, there is no world. And this Shakti belongs to that reality. Reality is always existent. What about Maya? Maya is an illusory appearance. With reference to the reality only, this Maya exists. With reference to the water, the wave exists. In Dakshinamurti Stotram, this Maya is described as a magician. It's a very common thing to explain what is this Maya. Like a magician can create just by throwing his hat, He creates a falcon. He creates a bird flying out. Similarly, they say that this pure Brahman, pure consciousness can project this entire world for us. And this power to manifest is called as Maya. Power to manifest the world. So how do you describe Maya? Maya means it is the power in the reality which manifests as this universe. This is how we should understand. Deshadi kritaha antaha asti. The world has got end, but Brahman, the pure consciousness, has no end. Therefore, we say that the world cannot affect Brahman. Like how a dream cannot affect the waker. Snake, a false snake, which we see on the rope, cannot give poison to the rope because the snake itself doesn't exist. Mirage water can't wet the sand. So this way, when we understand, we try to understand, we get the feeling or we get to know what is this pure consciousness and what is the world. Anantaha Brahman. That is the essence of verse number 35 and 36. And the more we get clarity in understanding the nature of Brahman, the more we will be clear about our own nature. Because ultimately, the Upanishad says Tat Tvamasi. That principle which is indicated as Brahman is your nature. That is what is the ultimate teaching. So when we understand, when we try to analyze this Maya principle, the objective behind is to understand really my own nature. Limitless Brahman is all pervasive. Therefore, it is called as Sarva Vyapakam. Anytime in our waking dream or sleep, the existence is never lost. I continue in waking, I continue in dream, I continue in sleep. We can forget the body as in sleep, but we can never say that I never existed. Most of the time, even in our waking state, we are not conscious about our body. We are not aware of our body. We are just continuing to exist. That's all. Only when the body becomes sick and it gives me trouble, or my mind gives me trouble, then I become aware of the mind, I become aware of the body. Otherwise, what happens to all of us? We just exist. We exist as that is our real nature. Body, mind can go, but existence cannot go. And this existence is different than the body and mind. That is what in Bhagavad Gita, very famous verse of Bhagavad Gita, this verse number 20 of Bhagavad Gita, I consider as one of the most precious jewels of Bhagavad Gita. Na jayate mriyate va kadachet, nayam bhutva bhavita va na bhuyah, ajo nitya shashvato yam puranah, na hanyate hanyamane sharire. Very beautiful description of our nature. What does it say? This Brahman, this pure consciousness is not born. It will never die. Because it is never born. Whatever is born will die. Body is born, so it will die. So Lord Krishna in the second chapter brings out the truth, which is explained in the Upanishads, and he wants to convey that truth to Arjuna in the very second chapter, not to the 18th chapter. Second chapter, right in the beginning of the teaching. He says, Arjuna, come to know this truth about yourself, which is not born. It will never die because it was never born. It will never cease. It is always eternal, changeless, ancient. When the body gets killed, the existence continues. So, in the second chapter, this same truth was revealed to Arjuna, which we are trying to understand in this chapter as Satyam, Jnanam, Ananta. There is a limitation of space and time. It is easy to understand limitlessness with reference to space and time. But limitlessness with reference to objects is slightly difficult. What we have to understand is the bangle or a ring, it cannot impose its form on gold. Bangle can restrict chain. Bangle is not chain. Chain is not ring. Between the objects in the relative world, there is a limitation. But when you go to the substratum of the objects, there is no limitation. When you have the gold vision, while seeing the ring and chain and a bangle, you will have lost the sight of limitations of form and function and name, because you have a gold vision. So similarly, we can live in the world as pure existence consciousness principle, which is called as Jivan Mukti. I only have to change my vision, and that is the vision which we are trying to get. The pure consciousness vision, the pure existence vision. Therefore, the study and practice of Vedanta must go together. When I study in Panchadasi that I am that pure existence, anantam principle, not limited by time, not limited by space. I was the same yesterday. Yesterday I was existence. Yesterday I was the consciousness. Today also I am the same consciousness, existence principle. The body has its problems. But this background, if we have it like a tambura shruti in our vyavahara, in our day-to-day transactional state, it will help us to remain in balance. That is why this Vidya is called as Raja Vidya. In the 9th chapter, it's called as Raja Vidya Raja Guhyam in the Gita. It's a king of all knowledges. Because if you know this as your real nature, you can face life. We become Siddha Purushas. We should not become eternally a sadhak. I am a sadhak, seeker for 25, 30, 40, 50 years. No, we should say, I want to realize my nature. I will study Panchadasi the next 2 years. And Swami Vidyaranya gives you a guarantee. He says, when you study my teaching, you will realize your real nature. In the 6th chapter of Panchadasi, he gives a guarantee. He says, just follow the teaching, you will realize. That's all. So you become a Siddha Purusha. You become, you can yourself say, I know. Initially, it may sound difficult. It may sound very strange and abstract. What is this existence? What is this consciousness? But as we study this again and again, it becomes more and more clear. Sarvagatatvat means it's all pervasive. I mean, you see, I'm trying to explain the same principle of ananta in these slides. Desha kala vastu is maya kalpita. Kalpita means it is an imagination it is an imagination, it's a power of maya. See, at the Paramarthika level, there is no Desha, Kala or Maya. Paramarthika means the higher level. At the relative level, at a transactional level, when I am in the waking state, yes, there is Desha, there is Kala, and there are objects. Like a mirage water can never wet the sand, similarly, all the transactions which I undergo in my life cannot affect the pure consciousness. And this Brahman has no ananta, antaha, no end. And with reference to that pure consciousness, when I look at the world, then I will say it is an appearance. In what? In consciousness. Like the movie is an appearance in the TV screen. Very easy to understand. So similarly, this movie of the waking state is going on in the screen of Brahman. Therefore, this world is called as an illusion. Time, space, objects, all of them are illusion. They are not factually there. This is a great finding, and it helps me to understand and remove the illusion also. How is this illusion removed? Only when I know that the world is illusion, then only I can remove it. When I know this rope is not a rope, the stake which I'm seeing is not real, actually it is rope, then I will have the knowledge of the rope gives me the knowledge of the falsity of the snake. Knowledge of Brahman gives me the knowledge of the falsity of the world. Brahman alone is called as jiva and Ishvara. There is nama bheda, natu vastu bheda. There is one pure consciousness. We all experience it. Only thing is, I don't know how to place it, you see. In my sleep state, I am that pure consciousness, pure existence. Only when I study the Panchadasi, I come to realize that particular state. All of us can know this because of the knowledge which we get from the scriptures. So that state which can exist without any objects. Now, anyat pashyati. Chandogya Upanishad very beautifully describes that state as where you don't see anything, hear anything, think about anything. That state is called as Brahman. So that pure state, with reference to that state, we call this Vyavahara with two dresses, two roles played by that one pure Brahman. Like in some movies, you have the hero and the villain played by the same person. So similarly, two roles of Brahman are played by pure consciousness. It plays the role of the jiva, it plays the role of the Ishvara. And what is the difference between what is Ishvara and what is jiva? It is upadhi bheda. Upadhi means it is the medium. I will explain that upadhi in the next verse. So there is one pure consciousness with jiva, it is called as vyashti. With when they say that consciousness is taken from the view of a body, it is called as vyashti, individual. The same consciousness, when it is appearing and we look at it from the totality point, it is called as Ishvara. This difference you should be very, very clear. There is only one consciousness, but it is appearing as two, jiva and Ishvara. Jiva and Ishvara both are Maya and both are illusory. The fact is the substratum, which is pure Brahman. We cannot shout from the top of the hill and say E is equal to mc square and expect everybody to realize it. You need to understand how Vedanta describes our real nature with a certain methodology. So, like you need to understand E is equal to mc squared with some scientific background. Similarly, you need a scientific background to understand the falsity of the world and reality, the reality of the consciousness existence principle. Okay, so that was the 36th verse. With that, we complete what is called as ananta. So we have seen satyam, jnanam, anantam, three aspects we have seen of the pure Brahman. Now, from 37 onwards, there is this topic of what is Maya. All the verses from 37 to 43, they are all talking about the power by which the world is getting projected. That is what we should understand. See, all of us experience the world. And there is some higher power, which we call it as Ishvara. That this whole section is about what do I experience as the world. Let's go through this verse first, and then I have several slides here which are slightly long. So I will go through some of them. Some of them you can just read it. So for each verse, I have some slides which will explain certain aspects. I will go through the important sections. Let's first understand the verse.
Satyam jnanamanantam yad Satyam jnanamanantam yad Brahma tadvastu tasya tat Brahma tadvastu tasya tat Ishvaratyam cha jivatvam Ishvaratvam cha jivatvam Upadidvaya kalpitam Upadidvaya kalpitam.
All these verses are chanted by Vijaya. She is in Texas. She lives in Texas, but she has agreed to chant all these verses, and then send it to me for playing it out. Very beautiful. So it's a very good service of her. She also attends these sessions. What does this verse say? Brahma satyam jnanam anantam yat brahma tad vastu tasya tat. So what is the vastu? Vastu means reality. How does this reality is explained? Existence, consciousness, infinity. Three words. Whenever you know whenever somebody asks you, what do I learn? These are technical words, yeah? So it has got a lot of meaning in them, and it has to be explained. So this reality is called as existence, consciousness, anantam, infinity principle. Now, the second aspect, what does this verse says? It says that it is expressing in the world as the Lord, which is called as Ishvara. One reality is expressing as Ishvara, and the second expression is the jiva. Individual soul and the total soul. That is the second point. What is the third point? Third point is, it says that both these experiences which we have are superimpositions. They are illusions, which is called as Maya. So in this verse, Maya is defined, and then from here onwards, slowly Vidyaranya will build up the topic. What is this Maya? How does it express? How does it give us the bondage? How do we get rid of this Maya? Even in Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna says, you need to get rid of this Maya to get moksha. So we have to first understand, how does this Maya express itself? So reality has been expressed as satyam, jnanam, ananta. And that is what is the definition of the reality. Vastava satyam. Vastava satyam means what? It is paramarthika satyam. It can never be sublated. Sublated means it can never be negated. Abhaditam. This is a word used in Sanskrit. Abhaditam means I can never say I do not exist. You can say I don't exist as this body, but you cannot say I don't exist, because that happens to be my nature. The dream state is denied in waking. The waking state is denied in dream. In the dream, do you see the waking? Your mother, father, children, do you see them in the dream? No. The dream children, do you see them in the waking state? No. Therefore, what does this prove? It proves that both are false. In deep sleep, both of them are negated. This is what is called as sublation. Sublation means it can be falsified. It is not, sublation does not mean destruction. Sublation means it is falsified through knowledge. So when I say that the world doesn't exist, it only means that I can say through knowledge of pure consciousness, with reference to that consciousness, I can say the world is false. But not with reference to when I'm living in the world, I'm transacting in the world, I should transact as the world is real. Now, in samadhi state, even the deep sleep state is negated. I don't know myself is deep sleep. I know myself as the pure existence consciousness is samadhi state. Pure existence. Nothing else exists except me. That is the truth.
Anamanantam.
So, Kathopanishad says very similar thing beyond the Mahat is this unmanifest Avyakta. That means there is something called as unmanifest of the world. World is manifest, unmanifest. This unmanifest is called as Prakriti. And what is beyond this Prakriti is Purusha. And beyond that Purusha, there is nothing. Sa kashta, sa paragatihi. So the highest principle in Vedanta, in Kathopanishad says that Purusha is the highest principle. Purusha is the same as Satyam, Jnanam, Anantam, Brahman. And that is what is called as Paramarthika Satyam. What is Vyavaharika Satyam? Waking state is called as Vyavaharika. The dream state is called as Pratibhasika, apparent. Transactional state is waking. Non-transactional state is Pratibhasika, which is dream. In the dream, it is only Manasa Vyapara. Only the mind is thinking, projecting in the dream. What happens in the waking? In the waking, the sense organs are working, mind is working. Therefore, there is a transaction taking place between the senses and the objects in the universe. This transactional world is called as Vyavaharika. What is Paramarthikam? Paramarthikam is where there are no transactions at all, which is called as Brahman. It is beyond the three states. What is deep sleep? Deep sleep, it is not waking. It is not a samadhi state where I am saying I am conscious, I am the pure nature. The sleep state is anirvachaniyam. Anirvachaniyam means uncategorizable. Agrahanam. Agrahanam is a word which is a technical word which is used in Mandukya Upanishad. The sleep state is where I don't grasp anything. And Mandukya Upanishad says that this sleep state is the cause. It is a state of ignorance, avidya. And it is the cause for both the waking and dream. The sixth mantra, the fifth mantra of Mandukya Upanishad says that the sleep state is the cause of both the waking and the dream. So in Mandukya, there are only two categories which are expressions of this reality. One is called as agrahanam. I don't grasp anything in the deep sleep state. And the second is anyata grahanam, which is the waking and dream. I don't grasp anything is the deep sleep state. See how beautifully these technical words are used. Anyata grahanam. Anyata grahanam means wrongly comprehend the word, which is the waking and the dream. So waking and dream both are operational. One is agrahanam. In agrahanam, what happens? It is the wheeling of the reality. See, these are all the finer aspects of how my mind has to travel towards the truth. Anyata grahanam is what? Is seeing the world of plurality and taking them as real. See, if I take the world as real, there is no way I can have moksha, because then I will always be with the world, this current world. And what is this paramarthikam? Paramarthikam is defined as it is not Vyavaharikam, it is not Pratibhasikam. It is not Pratibhasikam means there is no, it is not like the dream which is Pratibhasikam. It is not Vyavaharikam means what? It is not like the waking. So therefore we say that the reality, pure consciousness, is neither agrahanam, like in sleep state, where I don't know anything at all, complete ignorance is there about myself and the world. It is also not anyata grahanam, where I take the world, the projected world. The projection is coming because of avidya only. If there is no, if the avidya is gone, what happens is the world exists, but I don't consider it as real. This makes a huge difference. The reality is beyond classification. Therefore, it is called as paramarthikam. It independently exists as what? Pure awareness. Without any limitation of desha, kala, vastu, without the differences of sajatiya, vijatiya, svagata bheda. See, these are all the descriptions of trying to indicate us to the truth. Ultimately, the Upanishads and Panchadasi, this chapter is telling us that you are Brahman. You are the pure consciousness principle. And how do I get towards that is understanding these technical details. Ekam eva advitiyam. That pure consciousness is advitiyam. Advitiyam means why it is called non-dual, because it can exist independently without the world. There is no dvaitam in that pure consciousness. So Brahman is not jiva or Ishvara, but it is beyond jiva and Ishvara. The reality can be looked in two ways. One is jiva, another is Ishvara. Like you have two circles. The inner circle can be called as jiva. The outer circle is called as Paramatma. Now, what is the center? The center is called as Brahman. 5 inches away from the Brahman can be my body, which is the Jivatma. But millions of kilometers away from the center, trillion kilometers, is this Paramatma. You can extend, go on, it is infinite. So knowing the center, which has got one point, from there I can extend to the entire cosmos. Knowing Brahman and expressing, which is expressed as two upadhis of jiva and Ishvara, one is the macro, one is the micro, I can understand the real nature of the reality. Upadhi is a technical term which I will take up next week, because this is a very important topic. It will come many times during the discussions between this 37th verse and 43rd verse. And what is the definition of upadhi is what is the beginning of this particular slide. Upasamipe stitva swiyan gunan anyatra adadati. Upadhi is a technical word, and the whole world is called as an upadhi for Brahman. How? That is what we will see next week. Okay. With this, I will close Panchadasi chapter 3 discussions today. Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadhaya Purnamevavasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. If you have a question, you can unmute yourself and you can ask.
Okay,
Yeah, Saru?
first of all, so good to see you and so lovely to have the classes.
Yes.
But yeah, I must say this meditation is really helping. So even I'm going through some health issues, but constantly saying I'm not the body and I'm not that body part.
Yeah.
Through like maybe one day of shock, and now it's like, yeah, okay. You know, there's a certain level of acceptance. So thank you so much for that. Yeah.
Thank you. I mean, this helps because this is the Vedantic meditation, and it's very safe and very, very helpful in our coping with the world and coping with our body conditions and also mind's condition, because it helps a lot.
Yes.
But repeat it. You see, the more you practice, what will happen is the deha abhimana will come down. And the biggest problem for all of us is the deha abhimana, the identification with the body as me.
Yeah, that's huge. It's so big. It's so big. You're right. I have two questions. One is from the first part where you're talking about when you said Brahman can project the entire world for us.
Yes.
Yeah? So my question is, why is and we're also saying at the same time it has two parts, the nice and the negative. My question is, why is the world so ugly? Why is the projection so ugly? So many times, like the wars and the killing and all of that. Why is the projection so ugly?
That's a part and parcel of the world, because the world must have both. You see, it should have the good as well as the bad. In the 11th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna describes the whole universe, and he brings in to show Arjuna that what you need is a balance of mind. In order to have the balance of mind, you have to accept both the good as well as the bad, because the world is created for the exhaustion of vasanas.
For the exhaustion.
For the exhaustion of the punya papam of the jivas.
Okay.
The exhaustion of the punya papam of the jivas requires the world like this.
Okay.
See, the structure of the world depends on the type of vasanas which are getting fulfilled. For example, you know, we had different yugas, Treta Yuga, Dwapara Yuga. Some of the yugas were very sattvic in nature. There are some yugas, yuga itself, I mean, I'm talking about, you see, each creation comes about only for the sake of the exhaustion of the punya papas of millions of jivas, you know. So your question is why this is a very often repeated question, not in Bhagavad Gita talks as well as in other talks, where this question asks why there is sorrow in the world. Why can't God be very just and just create a beautiful world? Suppose you had only goodness in the world. It will not be meaningful.
Yeah.
You see, good should have the opposite. That is why the whole world is a pair of opposites. The direct answer to your question is, as per the prarabdha karma which have to be fulfilled, this world is created by the Lord. You see, we are going to see after this chapter 3, we are going to see the fourth chapter, which is called as Jiva Srishti and Ishvara Srishti. Your question of why this creation has got sorrow is very beautifully answered by Vidyaranya in that section, in that chapter, where he says that the creation of the world does not cause bondage. Ishvara Srishti does not cause bondage. What causes bondage is the Jiva Srishti. So it is the Jiva's projection of the mind which is causing the sorrow for him. But and like I said, the direct answer, the simple answer is prarabdha fructification requires this type of word.
So it's a collective prarabdha in a sense.
It is a collective prarabdha of all the jivas put together. That is the blueprint given by the jivas to the creator to create this world.
Okay. So in addition to that, now we also say that all the transactions that I undergo do not affect the pure consciousness.
Yes, that is a very important point, because this point is very, very critical, because the moment you understand that I am of the nature of pure consciousness, again and again you have to repeat that. You know, this point will be clear only when you say, I am not affected by the sorrows in my mind.
In my mind.
Yes, you see, mind has got vrittis. Mind has got reactions, responses to the world. But the responses to the world is an element, is a structure of the world. It is, this is the way God has created the world. Now, that will continue even after my realization of the truth. Even after I come to know I am the pure consciousness, the world of the body-mind interaction will continue. But you have to learn to say that that is not me. You have to learn. You have to falsify that and say that that is a lower order of reality. But I am of a higher order of reality, which is called as Atma. I am pure Atma. You see, that is why I said Deha Bhimana. Once that is dropped, then you will find that the spiritual path is very, very easy to follow. Keep remembering that anytime I am worried, anytime I feel sorrowful, is only because of the vrittis in my mind. And these vrittis are caused because of the identification of the world. You see, the world of objects, the world of relationships, you see, those are all causing the vrittis. Suppose my daughter is not well today, definitely I will have a sorrowful state of my mind. I cannot avoid it. It is natural. My husband is not well. You know, there are some things have not gone well in my day today. So these are all due to prarabdha karma of the body. The body will go through the cycle. But if you have this knowledge of this pure consciousness, pure self, again and again repeating it to yourself, because that is where the real click of spiritual study helps, you know. The transformation of the abhiman, this happens. The moment you start practicing this type of simple meditations, you don't have to go to very complicated upasanas, but these simple upasanas help you to transform your direction of thoughts. See, today your vasanas are going around in circles. Same topic keeps on happening every day. You know, I keep worrying about the same things again and again. It is a vasana. It is a direction of thought. Now that direction have to change. The only way to change it is give the intellect the spiritual nourishment. That is why the study becomes important. And as you study higher and higher texts, the intellect will gain the strength. It will learn new techniques to go to a higher path. And this is what happens in this study of Panchadasi, especially because Panchadasi is a text which Vidyaranya has written primarily for seekers who are really putting efforts to make that path towards Atma. You know, each of these chapters, when you go to the depth and see, for example, in the third chapter, he has taken satyam, jnanam, anantam absolutely to the highest point and says, this is what is the truth. What you need to drop is the 5 koshas. So does it answer your question? Yes, Aru? I think you're muted. Yeah, okay. I think I'm not able to hear you, but anybody else has a question? Bauba, any questions from your side? Okay.
Can I be heard now?
Yeah, now I can hear you.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. So my question is, karma belongs to the body.
Yes.
Not to the consciousness.
No. Karma does not belong to consciousness. See, one thing is you must be very clear. Nothing is there in consciousness.
Nothing is there.
Absolutely nothing. It is free of all karmas. It is free of all the worldly knowledges. There is nothing except itself. That is why we say it is kaivalyam. Kaivalyam means it alone is.
Right.
Now, that is the real nature. But it alone is, and it is always is. You see, that is what is the teaching of the Veda. See, normally, we only identify ourselves with the body and we say that, you know, oh, my body is not there, so I will not be there. You know, that is a normal pattern of thinking.
Yeah.
But that pattern has to change. There is something which always is there.
And that is one. It's only one.
So, yeah, and it is only one. It is always pure. Nothing can enter it because all these thoughts are all belonging to anatma. Anatma is of a lower order. These are the fundamentals of Vedanta. See, the moment you know that there is something which is higher.
Yeah.
How do I rise to that higher level? By going beyond time. That is why in meditation today, I said now you let your mind get exposed to timelessness. Let your mind get exposed to thoughtlessness. The moment your mind gets exposed to these conditions, what happens is you yourself will get that experience of the pure Atma. So your answer is karma affects only the body. And when I say body, it also includes the mind. Subtle body, you see, it is this subtle reflection of consciousness which has all the punya papam in its data bank, you would say, like what leaves the body. You see, in this comes in the 6th chapter of Panchadasi, where Vidyaranya explains very beautifully that what is the jiva. He gives the definition of a jiva. He gives the definition of what is kutastha. Kutastha means what is that nature of mind which I don't know, but that is what it is. I am the pure consciousness. I don't know that. And the jiva, the moment you say is a jiva, like I say, we are all jivas. Now, the jiva is nothing but it is a reflection of that purity, that pure consciousness. It is together with the mind. You see, with the causal, the moment that reflection falls with the causal body and the subtle body, it becomes a jiva. And what does Vedanta do? Vedanta introduces the intellect to that pure light of consciousness and makes the jiva look in the other direction rather than in the karma direction.
Right.
The moment you look at the karma direction, you are a jiva.
Okay.
The moment you look at the direction of Atma, the light, that pure light of Atma, you are home. Today you think that this body and the world is the home. But you learn through Veda how to turn turn that mind away from the world to that other direction.
So it's something like, say, for example, people like Shankaracharya and all, they didn't do karma, but karma happened through them.
Yes.
So much karma happened through them.
Yeah. You see, when we look at the Shankaracharya, we are saying the body is doing karma, but from their mind, they are not doing anything at all.
Happening.
They are completely in line with the Vedic thought that I am of the nature of pure consciousness. Full stop.
All surrendered.
Everything else is surrendered to the Ishvara.
Most of them are like Shankaracharya is a Devi Upasak, no?
Yes. I mean, you see, he was. There are so many, stories which go around. He is a Devi Upasaka. How can he be talking about Nirguna Brahman? But of course, you see, he has established in all the Shankara Mathams. He has established
Shakti.
Yes, the Shakti. Ultimately, Devi is nothing but Maya Shakti.
Yeah.
And the more I pray to that Shakti, the principle behind it is what? I drop my identification with the body.
The more I pray to the Shakti,
yes, the more I pray to the Lord, I pray to the Shakti, ultimately what happens? I'm dropping my body identification.
Yeah.
So the prayer may not necessarily be for things, but for dropping from that Maya and that illusion, probably.
Yes. See, that is what is called as Nishkama Upasana. I don't ask for this thing or that thing in the world. That is Sakama. I go to the temple. I openly pray to the Lord. I want you to remove this obstacle for me. There is some pratibandha I want you to remove. That is what is called as Sakama. That means I go to the Lord with a desire to remove certain problems for myself. There is another prayer. You can go to the same temple and say, oh Lord, give me purity of mind. So the seekers of truth, they go to the same Lord and ask for Chitta Shuddhi. I want purity so that I can realize my nature. You are there in my body. See, what does the Veda say? What does the Bhagavad Gita says? that the Lord is there in all our hearts. But I don't know how to realize it. See, the challenge comes for all human intellects to understand there is some higher principle, which is there. I know that. Now, that I can know only when I study the Veda. There is no other textbook in the world which will help me to go towards that higher nature. And going towards that higher nature is our real purpose in life, according to Veda. And many minds are drawn towards that. See, that is how people come into all these talks, and they find some things useful. They learn something new in these talks, and then they grow.
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody else has a question?
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Venkatesh here.
Yeah, Venkatesh, tell me.
It's a very interesting topic today, actually. So, what I see, Swami Dhyanya has very boldly made a statement that everything is because of this Maya and Avidya.
Correct, yes.
So, and defining that Maya and all, I'm sure that in the subsequent verses, he will be giving a very thorough analysis.
Yes.
But what I just realized, like, is he just trying to say further by using the terms agrahanaya and ananya grahanaya?
Yeah, correct.
Which is
Agrahana means that I don't grasp anything.
I don't grasp anything, referring to the deep state.
That is what is called as the deep state in
deep sleep.
That is what
Ananya Grahana is referring to the both dream state and the
Anyatha Grahanam. Anyatha Grahana means
catching something.
I am catching something else. I don't know who I am, but I'm catching something else. See that it has got. This is what is called as the two powers of Maya. One is the wheeling power. Wheeling power is that agrahanam. The projecting power of Maya is what? I don't know who I am, but I think I am the body. It is a thought in the mind which projects this. And that is what is called as Anyata Grahanam. Anyata Grahanam, this is very beautifully, I mean, if you want to go to the depth of this.
The word, the way he has put it in the Sanskrit, that's very interesting.
Yes, yes. And if you want to really go to the depth of this, study Mandukya Karika and this Swami Gaudapada Acharya has used these two technical terms to explain the entire Mandukya Upanishad. The Maya has been explained by these two technical terms.
So, I mean, from this particular verse, what it appeared to me was something like he's trying to say this avidya is during that sleep state, and the Maya is in that state of waking and the dream state, and which are associated with upadhi, some projections and all that, which need to be dropped.
Yes,
so body and mind need to be dropped. So, I mean, it appeared to me like that's what he is trying to emphasize on that.
Correct, you're right. He is going in that path. Next week we are going to study what is upadhi. What is the definition of upadhi and what is the role the upadhi plays? Upadhi is nothing else but our body, our mind, and the world. Okay, so now what happens when I am with the upadhi and what happens when I am without the upadhi?
Yes.
Okay, so the moment you understand that without the upadhi is my real nature, with the upadhi is my nature to fulfill conditions of prarabdha. So there is a meaning to the universe. You know, the universe is not without any meaning. It is not purposeless.
Yeah, he is trying to convert that samashti and Rushti, that both the things actually, the universe and the individual, he's just trying to say what is the difference.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, is there anything else from others? See, there is a question here which talked about the, this is from Akshay, yeah? There is a question about what is the chapter 18, which talks about Panchaitani Mahabaho Karanani Bodhame Sankhye Kritante Proktani Siddhaye Sarva Karmana. There are 5 factors which are there for all actions. Okay, any action, any karma requires 5 factors. What are these 5 factors? That is what he explains in the 14th shloka. The first factor is adhishthanam, the seat. Okay, that is what you have put forward here, Akshay. So the seat, the body is the adhishthanam. For any action, you require the body. Then the second factor is the doer, Vijnanamaya Kosha, the ego part. I am the karta. That is the second. Organs of perception. Unless until I have jnana indriyas, I cannot do any karma. Unless there is a doer behind the action, there cannot be any karma. Unless there is a body, you cannot do any karma. This is the third factor. What is the fourth factor? The organs of action. Organs of action, like hands, legs, unless I am mouth, if I want to chant something, I need the mouth, organ of speech, my legs, my hands. These are all the fourth factor. And what is the last factor, which is so important? I may have the organs of action. I want the deity behind the organ of action and the organs of knowledge to bless me. There is a power behind the sense organs, and there is a power like Chakshuhu. There is a Surya Devata. There is hands. There is another Devata which is responsible for the functioning, the power. For example, sometimes the Chakshu may be there, but the power is missing. That means the deity, for some reason, it is not blessing it, but the power exists. The Golaka is there, but it is not functioning. For certain prarabdha karma, this is required. Now, these are the 5 factors, which is all what is called as the pancha. For any karma, Lord Krishna says these 5 factors are required. Now, what is the power which is behind all these 5?
Yeah.
Consciousness.
That is what is called as consciousness. Okay, so consciousness, satyam jnanam anantam brahma, that is the ultimate power. And Shankaracharya focuses on that power and says that is the real life principle. A body may be breathing, a body, the organs may be active, inactive, but all this is governed by one principle for all the human beings, including all living beings, plants, animals, everything. And that power is the supreme power. That supreme power, by its mere presence, it can cause a reflection in the buddhi, which is the ego. And without that reflection, there is nothing. Buddhi is the one which gets a reflected consciousness, and it makes the buddhi function, and then it shares the energy to the sense organs and everything else. So my goal in Vedanta is to go beyond these Pancha 5 factors and inquire into the truth of satyam, jnanam, ananta. And there are ways, there are methods of inquiring into this. And that is what we will study in the 4th chapter, which is the Viveka of Ishvara Srishti and Jiva Srishti. And in the 6th chapter of Panchadasi, it's a marvelous chapter, very, very in-depth chapter of Vedanta, where, I mean, I would say Vidyaranya's excellence comes out in the 6th chapter, where he says in one of the verses, you do this verse, do this chapter, I give you guarantee you will know your truth. Very boldly he says.
Very confident.
Very confident. I have not seen any other text in the entire spiritual study where the author is so confident. You know, he says, "Come on, study this chapter. I will explain to you what is jiva. I will explain to you what is Ishvara. I will explain to you what is kutastha, what is Brahman. I will give you an example to show how you can discriminate between the 4 of this: jiva, Ishvara, kutastha, and Brahman. These are the 4 aspects of consciousness. One consciousness appearing as these 4. And then he gives an example of space. He says there is ghatakasha, there is mahakasha, there is jala akasha, and there is megha akasha. And he compares how a jiva can be compared to the ghatakasha, how the jiva can be compared to the jala akasha. I mean, it's a beautiful chapter. I don't want to go into the depth of it, but I just gave you a glimpse. But you know, Vidyaranya is really a tremendous teacher. Okay, anybody else has a question?
Sir, hello.
Yeah, Akshay, tell me.
Yeah, in this shloka, the last word, the last reason is the daivam, right?
Yes.
So, in some commentary, it is mentioned daivam means our prarabdha karmas and it will affect our current actions, right?
No. See, daivam is a power. If you study Tattvabodha, very clearly it says that daivam is a principle. Is a power behind, it's a universal power behind all of the bodies. You see, Surya power is a power for the Chakshuhu. So similarly, Prajapati Devata, there are certain powers. You pray to them and you will get your rewards. So it doesn't, it is not our prarabdha. I mean,
so
from whatever I have, no,
current actions, right?
Yeah.
Body itself is
also affect our current actions, right? Prarabdha karma also. So it can be the reason.
No. You see, prarabdha is a separate factor which refers to the individual. Okay. The power is universal. An individual, because of his prarabdha, he may not have that universal power. Are you getting it? Chakshu Indriyam is a universal power. It is there in all the eyes. Whether you have this prarabdha or that prarabdha, your power is still there. In this birth, maybe you're not using that power because of your prarabdha. In the next birth, you will use that same indriya's power, which is the devata's power. See, the whole universe, the way it is controlled according to Veda, in Chandogya Upanishad and Bradhanaka Upanishads, especially in Bradhanaka Upanishad, they give you a list of all the powers, all the devatas. And they say that crores of devatas are there in the universe which control different aspects of the universe. The nakshatras have a devata power. Prithvi devata is there. Each one has a power. So I have not studied commentary where about maybe the interpretation is slightly different. But from what I have studied, universal powers are all devata's powers. Prarabdha is an individual. It's an individual power of the mind, which has to undergo certain conditions. And is that clear, Akshay?
Yes, yes. One more last question.
Yeah, go ahead.
As you said, if we have to go beyond these 5 factors, right?
Yes.
In order to experience. But if we are trying to do that, like means to experience the ultimate, are we neglecting our current actions to be taken?
No. Very good question. This is a very standard question which all the seekers ask. See, this pursuit of self-knowledge, is it a selfish thing? Is that ultimately that's what you're asking, right?
Yes.
Am I being very selfish and dropping all my duties and going behind this knowledge? It is not a selfish motive, because even the pursuit, Lord never says you drop everything and then you do this. He says, do your duty first. Yeah. You have duty to your children, duty to your parents, do that first. Don't say that I'm going to study Vedanta, therefore I'm going to drop the duties. That is not what the Lord wants. Duty comes first. Whatever time comes beyond the duty, if there is a choice between duty and Vedanta, do your duty first. So dharma, that is your duty, do that first, because you have taken birth to take that duty. But there are certain circumstances for some people where everything is working fine for them. Parents are taken care of, everybody, there is happiness in the family, everything is okay, and they are free. That is also brought by prarabdha. See, those people are the people like you find Swamijis, they go to a Gurukulam, they study, and then they feel that yes, things are working fine, I can continue. Those cases are very rare. Very rare. Yeah, Akshay, does it answer?
Yes, fine. Yeah, that's clear.
Mr.
Thank you, Hariom.
Yeah, Jacqueline.
This is an interesting topic that Akshay is asking. In fact, whether we are doing action or we are not doing action, we come to this world is beyond our control.
Yes.
And if there is a duty, it has to be done because we are here and there's no control. And it's interesting to be a human being. Then we think about there's a duty, but in actual fact, the now, N-O-W, is equal to present, is equal to consciousness, is equal to blissful, is equal to eternal. So as a human, then we say, okay, I have to listen to Mr. Shekhar every Wednesday and every Saturday. But in fact, this is involuntarily that it came to us, just like I was in my mother's womb, which I didn't know, but I was there.
Yes.
So I'm saying that it's interesting as a human. Then we say, oh, it's selfish. We didn't do our what do you call that? Our duty. But then as a consciousness, it says just flow with the flow like a water.
Yes. See, that is why there are different types of people. As per your prarabdha, you flow in life. It is the prarabdha which is controlling your life. Your prarabdha says, I must do this. Somebody else's prarabdha says he has to look after the parents or look after his children. There is nothing wrong between the life of two people. You know, somebody may not be in Vedanta at all. 99% of the people they are not interested in this. But that is also the world. See, that world consists of all types of people.
Yeah, so what I'm saying there is there's no control at all. I mean, I came to listen to this, for some reason I'm there. Somehow the power there is moving me to listen,
Yes.
So I'm just saying that right just now, it's interesting that, I mean, I have asked myself this question many times also, but I'm saying, just now you were saying that they are good and bad, but either good and bad also we have to go through. Inevitable. Things that happen to us is inevitable. It has to happen.
Yes. You accept whatever comes in your life as something which is given to you. Yeah, that is what we call it as prarabdha.
Yeah, but as human beings, maybe we say no. We resist it and therefore we suffer, right?
What is the last portion? I didn't catch it.
I think that as a human being, as a mind, we resist what we are not happy about and therefore we suffer. And after we suffer, we say, okay, we have to accept because this is life.
You see, we suffer in life is as per prarabdha. We are happy in life is as per prarabdha. Yeah. Both happiness and sorrow, they are all a result of. This is the view of the Veda. Okay, this is I'm giving you a very broad framework in which the Veda describes human life is a life of samsara. Samsara means continuously changing.
Okay.
And this is a life over which we have zero control.
Yeah.
Zero control. I mean, you really see how your life was there yesterday. Tomorrow, you don't know what it is. But in this life, for example, you mentioned the power of now. That is what is the truth.
Yeah.
That is what, if I can try to spend a little bit more time on this aspect of the truth, that will give me more happiness.
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Appreciate. Have
okay. All right, thank you and good night. I think it's quite late. We had a very long conversation on Q&A today. If you have any questions, keep them up. We will, in any of our sessions, you can always bring them out. And thank you and good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hari Om.
Hari Om.
Hari Om.
Hari Om.
Thank you, Jay. Hari Om. Hari Om.
Thank you, Rohit.
Thank you.